Mr. Hager again. This is a continuation of my last video. There's some information that I didn't go over that I thought would be pertinent. So I was going to just, things just slipped my mind. Anyways, parental advisory, blah, blah, blah. I didn't, I know that probably my last video is going to bring up some questions. Well, a lawyer never argued the lying case and anything like that. When I went into courts, it was for bonds and stuff. And like I said, the accusations against me changed each time I went. Every time I went for bond, it started off way worse the first time I went to bond. And then it went from 2 charges down to 1 charge the next time I went for bond. And then the scenario for the situation changed again. And by the time I hit preliminary, it changed again. And each time I went before a judge, I was never allowed to speak. So I was never allowed to, represent myself. It was all up to a lawyer. And a lawyer during a bond doesn't represent your side of the case. And on the preliminary, he does represent your side of the case. But my lawyer was kind of a little bit, he was trying to exploit a loophole in the law that said the difference between him and her, because her wasn't mentioned in the law. And that was just an idiotic. I knew that wasn't going to work. And then by the time he focused on, the lying part, it was so close to trial date that, it was a public defender. Public defenders, if you ever get into trouble, I recommend, not having a public defender. They get so many cases, it's not all their fault. They get so many cases because, it's thrust on them. They get case after case thrust on their desk, and, you're just another number to them. When you're paying a lawyer, you're paying for their attention, for their focus. And that was one of the mistakes and regrets that I do have from all this is, I should have taken my mother up on the offer, but I thought that my lawyer was actually doing what he's supposed to be doing. And, all the evidence that we had was circumstantial. It was, my wife, everybody saying, no, calling her a liar. And my friends and family, testifying, saying that, my wife was saying that would have been hearsay. Without the evidence from the school system, from where she lied before, and without the evidence from social services where she lied before, it would have just been, it would have all been, he said, there was no evidence at all against me for anything. And that's why, the charges kept changing so drastically. Nothing made sense. There was no evidence backing anything up. This is all based off of he said, she said bullshit. Yeah, it's hard to believe. The only time that I ever got to speak my side of the case was when I talked to the investigator the very first time I went to the police station. Other than that, I didn't get to talk about my case, not in front of a judge, and I haven't hear it out or anything like that. I had to leave my fate up to a lawyer. And when you're dealing with your fate, and you're stuck in a jail, you don't want to gamble with your future. So I did what I thought was best. So I took the plea because, there's that chance that, I could have been found not guilty, but then again, I could have been found guilty. There was going to be a trial of me saying one thing and the little kid saying another thing. So when it comes to that, it's who people are going to believe. When you're thrusting your fate into the hands of 12 people that you don't know, it's going to get, you're taking a chance. And that 10 years was just a little bit too much that I could face. So, like I said, I took the plea. I figured it was the absolute, because in front of a jury, you're rolling the dice. And I couldn't face 10 years behind bars. I just couldn't do it. Being in jail from the beginning of this in May till November, I was on 23-hour lockdown. I only got out 1 hour a day. it's hard. It's rough. I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with that for 10 years. It would devastate me. It would destroy me. Actually, the limited time that I spent in there, it worked on me itself. You know, I was experiencing some of the worst heartbreak I've ever experienced in my entire life. You know, my family lied, and well, yeah, I expected my oldest daughter to lie. You know, she's done it once before, but I didn't expect her to go to this extreme, and I didn't expect my wife to take advantage of this so that she could have an affair. But, you know, so it was one heartbreak after another. I was just being kicked, you know, while I was down. I mean, the fortunate part was, you know, it started off way worse, and it kept changing, and, you know, the truth was trying to come out, but it wasn't fully coming out because I wasn't allowed to say anything in the court system. You know, I was basically told every time I went before a judge, you know, to shut up in a nice, polite way. Keep your mouth shut and don't say anything. So, I don't know. Think of me what you will, you know. I mean, here I am. I'm facing something. I've been convicted of something that I shouldn't have been convicted of. My friends and family, anybody who's ever known me, knows better. They've all been behind me, and I've had a huge support group. So I am grateful for that. You know, so now it's all up to just rebuilding my life and finding a new future, and dealing with the cards at hand. Anyways, you know, I just thought I'd clarify some things because, you know, people will probably ask some questions. Well, you know, yeah, I don't know. I just imagine going to trial and seeing, you know, I'd imagine any trial where a 14-year-old child is up there on the stand crying and then sitting there facing an adult, you know, with no facts on he said, she said. You know, most people are going to believe the child. So, no matter what the adult says. And without that evidence of her lying previously and what the state was blocking that evidence, I mean, that 10 years would have been, you know, a strong gamble. So I took the plea bargain. Anyways, I'm Mr. Anger. I'm going to start my regular episodes probably here in the next couple of days.